Good morning or early afternoon to everyone again on the call and in the room. And thank you again for joining us for today's Blogger Media Roundtable. Today we have with us Major General Tony Cucolo, Director of Force Development for the Deputy Chief of Staff G8 at Headquarters Department of the Army, along with key members of his staff, and they are here with us to discuss and take your questions on the topic of equipping and modernization programs. Before we open the floor for opening statements from General Cucolo, we have a few housekeeping items. Once the floor is open for questions, please state your name and blog or organization affiliation clearly. Also, we ask that you keep your questions succinct and to the point. This will ensure your question is answered by the appropriate subject matter expert in the room. Also, if you're not actively participating in the conversation, please keep your phone muted to eliminate any background noise. With that being said, Major General Cucolo, we open the floor to you for any opening statements.
Hey, thanks, Ashley. Good morning, everybody. Tony Cucolo. Again, like Ashley said, I'm the equipment guy for the Army. Quite simply, I ride herd on 5 years of programming from everything from ballistic underwear to Apache helicopters. I've got 14 of my best in the room with me. I mean, I brought down the best I got. Officers and civilians, Department of the Army professionals who actually monitor these programs or get equipment to the warfighters in Afghanistan and other locations, and we're ready to answer any questions you might have about equipment. Just again, if I could at least focus us in a couple of ways. We are the equipment team. We're not the acquisition corps. But we could talk about the programming aspects of acquiring equipment, but deep, detailed acquisition, that's not us. We'll be happy to talk about execution of the current budget in fiscal year 12. Happy to talk about the budget we just turned in for fiscal year 13. But I know I've got some folks that are very familiar with the process. As you know, although we're toiling away on 14-18, that 5-year program, and the bills and the bill paying for that, we cannot speak in detail because that's all pre-decisional still. So I'd ask you any questions about 14-18. We'll let you know if that's an impact and couch our answers as such. But other than that, what I want to do is maximize the amount of time for discussion and open it up to questions. So go ahead. Do you want to lead off?
Yes, sure. We begin. Chuck, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. Chuck Simmons from America's North Shore Journal. General, thank you for taking our call. I have a question about ground vehicles. Over the last decade, we've seen the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan necessitate adaptations to the ground vehicles that we provide our soldiers in combat. And I'm thinking of the MRAP and the up-armored Humvee, as well as the up-armored packages that went on everything, including the semi-tractor trailers and the tankers and all of that. Where are we headed in general with future Army vehicles? And I don't want to neglect the Deuces, the 4x4s, the tankers, all of the associated vehicles that we found in Iraq were just as much at risk. Can you give us an overview of where we're headed?
Absolutely. And it's going to be a complex answer, and I'll lead off, and then I'm going to turn it over to two of my guys, my wheeled vehicle guy and my track vehicle folks. But if I could give you context, if anything, over the last 8 years, the Army has proven its adaptability, and you mentioned some of it. We went in there with a small number of armored Humvees, and that's less than up-armored. We went a small number of armored Humvees. The vast majority of our Humvees during the Iraq invasion and the first days of Afghanistan were soft-skinned. And the subsequent reaction, the enemy gets a vote in what we field and how we operate. And our reaction to the enemy was up-armoring through a variety and a sequence of kits. And then the MRAP. Your question is about the future. I'll start with wheeled vehicles, and my one-liner before I pass it to my experts are, we recognize that there is a future for the Humvee in some mission roles, especially in homeland defense with our homeland security and just disaster response, particularly with our National Guard brothers and sisters. There's a future for the Humvee, but what numbers, still to be determined. We also know that for combat, the Humvee is no longer feasible, and so my Colonel Barbosa will talk about the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, the JLTV, and then the MRAPs. The MRAPs proved very capable, but with some limitations, for example, off-road mobility, and so there is still a future for MRAPs. Obviously, with the kind of adapting enemy that we would be fighting in a variety of locations, improvised explosive device, rocket-propelled grenades, all those things come together that you need a higher degree of protection in a wheeled vehicle for utility purposes, hence the MRAP. The MRAP has got a future in our route clearance units, our engineer units that will drive down the road and find and destroy the IEDs before they produce casualties. The MRAP may have future mission roles at echelons above brigade and in other locations, and certainly we're going to keep them in pre-positioned stocks. That's the wheeled vehicle part of it. Mark, why don't you talk to it, round out what I might have missed, or give it a little more detail, and then we'll switch to a track vehicle.
Okay. Chuck, it's Colonel Mark Barbosa. I'm the Logistics Division Chief and the truck guy in the Army G8. It's a good question, and it's a question that frequently we get asked when we go over to Capitol Hill, or we'll just get questions from the Hill or a lot of the reporters, and I'm sure some of the reporters that are on this line I've already talked to. General Cucolo, the good answer on the MRAPs, but to put it a little bit in perspective, the Army's tactical wheeled vehicle fleet is over 270,000 vehicles. We actually have more vehicles than the United States Post Office, which has vehicles in every town in America. But anyway, I digress. The last time we did this is something General Spoor threw in. So with that, MRAPs were something that industry jumped to and answered the call on when we needed protection against explosively formed projectiles, or what are commonly known as EFPs. But what you need to understand is, when you look at a fleet that's 270,000 strong, and you've got 20,000 MRAPs, that's a very small percentage. So I guess the bottom line is there is a role for MRAPs in the future, but as General Cucolo mentioned, they do have some limitations because we very, very, very quickly, using a number of manufacturers, put those things together and we fielded those. And they did an excellent job for us. And the fact is, they are doing an excellent job for us over there now, and they are protecting and saving lives. But we are going to bring them back, and they've got a role in the future of the tactical wheeled vehicle fleet. When you get to the other portions of the fleet, you got the heavy, you got the medium, and you got the light. One, we're reducing that size of trucks, sir. Yes, sir, to make it more nimble. But I'll focus more on the light tactical wheeled vehicles, and really the major modernization program for the Army for the foreseeable future will be with the Joint Light Tactical Wheeled Vehicle. As General Cucolo said, the Humvee, for the most extreme environment, has really met its match, and it's about maxed out. But it does have a role in the future, and it will for at least another 20 years. But we will slowly start to, once we let the JLTV contract, we will slowly displace the Humvees, the oldest ones obviously first, with JLTVs, because it'll have the protection. One of the things we're looking for is protection like we have with the current MRAP, we want to have with JLTV. And industry says they can do that. And if they give us even more, that's even better. The other thing, or the last thing I'll leave you with is, one of the things that we learned is we need to, for the tactical wheeled vehicle fleet, focus on the very latest when it comes to armor. So in the last couple of years, with support from the Hill, we have built a line in the Army budget to explore the art of the possible and constantly look at where we can go with armor to keep armor production going, because we have a portion, if you look at our tactical wheeled vehicle strategy, which is on a net, we have a need to buy armor, but we don't want to buy it all at once. We want to continue to buy it because what we got now is adequate, but we know tomorrow, someone's going to come out and find something that can defeat that, and we want to know what the latest technology is so that when we need to employ it quickly, we will have the very best out there. And so we've got a dedicated armor line and a tactical wheeled vehicle portfolio that's focused on armor, and we didn't have that before the war. Did that answer your question?
Can you speak to transportation, the truck, tankers, the supply guys?
Okay. Well, a little bit of background. I'm a Army transportation officer, logistician, so that is my background. And if you start to look at the medium fleets, and those are the 2.5 tons and 5 tons, or what we now refer to as FMTVs, or the family of medium tactical wheeled vehicles, or the heavy fleet, and that's your line haul or commercial type tractors that are grain and going up and down the road, pretty much stay on the hardball. Then you've got your HEMTs and your PLS, and you've got your heavy equipment transporters that transport tanks. Those actually are doing very well for us. In part, when you experience a threat, the distance that you are from the ground and some other things play a very important role. And so we've done very, very well with those platforms. And like I said, we're going to focus a lot on armor to continue to upgrade and protect those things. But as far as the distribution mission is, which is what I think you're getting at, when you talk about tankers or you talk about trucks that carry cargo, they are very much in our thoughts every day and in our plan when we pull the budget together on what we're going to fund. So with that said, the major modernization effort for the Army when it comes to tactical wheeled vehicles is with JLTV, but we are upgrading the HEMTs as they come back from theater. We are upgrading what's in the Guard, the Reserve, and the active units across the planet, so that if they have a legacy vehicle that's 15 or 20 years old and won't be able to carry the armor we need to put on it, and we are cycling it in. And in this case, the current contract is with Oshkosh for the heavy vehicles, and we're cycling in there, and they're rebuilding it and making it the most modern thing we've got. So distribution enablers on the battlefield, important to us and part of our plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Chuck. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to talk track vehicles just so we can get the next, because it seemed like your question was focused on wheels, and I'll just allow the next question to be asked. So you want to go, Dale? Okay, Dale Kissinger, go ahead.
Good morning, sir. This is Dale Kissinger. Thank you for bringing the team. I'm a former aviator, retired Air Force, and flew helicopters a large part of my career. And I was wondering how the Army's planning on dealing with all the combat wear and tear, dust, high altitude, et cetera, on your fleet.
Yeah, great question, Dale, and thanks for your service. I got Bill Pardue, and right here, a great Army aviator. I think I can tell you that the oldest aircraft we got is the Kiowa Warrior, the OH-58. That's got the highest modernization priority when it comes to rotary wing aviation. However, that doesn't mean that we're ignoring the Blackhawks or the CH-47s or the Apaches. And I'll let Bill fill in some blanks for you on what we're doing to deal with the wear and tear.
Dale, my name is Bill Pardue. There's a couple things we're doing for modernization here. First off, we're modernizing the fleets. The Black Hawk fleet going to the Mike model, the Chinook fleet going to the F model, the Apache Block 3 coming out soon, and all those aircraft are new airframes, which means I'm addressing the fleet age driver of the airframe, so I'm putting on new airframes on the Black Hawk, the Chinook, and now the Apache. So I'm addressing the fleet age and the wear and tear by putting new aircraft into the fleet. Number two is I bring the aircraft back from overseas. I bring them back and I reset them, which means I sort of take them apart. I look for wear and tear and cracks and put on new components and repair damaged components. So I have a proactive plan to address the wear and tear on the fleet between new airframes and resetting the old airframes. And then we're going to start a program now to look much deeper at the aircraft, take them apart even further, examine the basic airframe components to see where there are cracks they're appearing in the airframe from many years of wear and tear. So we believe between modernization of new airframes, resetting the existing airframes, and then a deeper look of the airframes coming back from the war, we're trying to address the fleet age of the helicopter fleet. Does that answer your question?
It sure does, but a quick follow-on. Does the budget affecting how much you're able to do of this? Is it delaying it or impacting it?
You can talk about 13, what we're doing there.
I would say, sir, we're maintaining a steady pace of modernization of all the airframes across the fleet, so that we believe that we have sufficient funds to address all the aircraft fleets through modernization and through reset to keep helicopter fleet viable for now and for the future. Does that answer your question?
Well, if I could, Bill's correct. This is General Cucolo again. I'm sorry. Bill's correct, but I tell you what, from a consumer's point of view, the current budget request of 13, we do have a couple of delays in a couple of programs, right? I mean, it just get down to a level of detail.
We're just the general's right. We're gonna slow our pace.
Yeah.
It's like you're a long distance runner and you're getting tired. You slow your pace and you hit the water points. We're gonna slow our pace. We're still gonna invest in the helicopter fleet to make sure that we keep it relevant and viable. But we're going to slow the pace of modernization based on fiscal realities. Yeah,
it's just we're going to get to every aircraft. It's going to be it depends on the program. It depends on the aircraft of how long how long it will take to get to the number of aircraft we want to get to. And if you're interested in that level of detail for 13, we can give you that, but that's subject to marks and everything else that's coming up.
No, I understand, General, and thank you for your frankness. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, let's go to Sandra.
Hi, General Cucolo. Thanks for having this roundtable today. I wanted to ask you about the network program. I mean, this has been identified as the #1 priority for Army modernization, and now you've been doing the network integration exercises for about a year, and this was the agile acquisition approach to modernizing the network. Now we're hearing some of the feedback from the NIE that what you've been doing is you've been testing programs of record that already existed, but we haven't really seen any big advances or any kind of game-changing type of procurement of new technology. Can you address maybe how you see that process evolving and whether you think we're going to see some big breakthroughs coming up?
That's a great question. We're always hoping for big breakthroughs. That's why we go out and throw this stuff in the dirt and hand it to soldiers and have them set up company, battalion, brigade command posts and exercise the heck out of it. Quite frankly, it's the network integration evaluations are doing what we need them to do, which is put promising technology in the hands of soldiers. Again, sorry to repeat myself, in the dirt to see what works, what doesn't work, what can be tweaked. And again, I think we're coming up on only our truly our second full up proper prep exercise coming up in May. So this is new to us, and I completely understand, and I'm not an acquisition guy, but I completely understand industry wondering, industry standing off to the side perhaps with their arms folded, wondering if the slide is worth the run, wondering if the internal investment to get out there and test and be a part of it is worth it. What's the outcome? And I think we're growing with we're growing and improving with every NIE that we have, and understanding better how to properly prep, understanding better how to evaluate. And I think out of the last NIE, we had a couple of the elements of evaluation that actually are going to come to fruition. I don't. Do you want to add anything on that, or?
That's Mike McCaffrey. I'm General Cucolo's communications guy in the room, I guess, and he's exactly right. We're working through how we do acquisition in association with the NIEs. I don't think anyone would be surprised if I say that we don't like the pace of acquisition, but obviously we have a lot of federal regulations and constraints that we have to adhere to, safety releases and security and so forth, for good reason. So the ASALT community is heading up, looking at the results of the most recent NIE and acquisition actions associated with those results, and they're moving forward, but it is a deliberate process. And at the same time, we are looking at and partnering with OSD on ways to do acquisition more agilely in association with the NIEs.
Yeah, and OSD has actually been very open. Those who properly provide oversight have been very open to the way we're operating here. And when you can come to those who provide oversight and say, look, we put this in the dirt, this is what we discovered, here's the test data, here's hard scientific backing of this capability, we think we would like to speed through the gates to get to production on these things, and can we do it, please? And that's get our senior leaders involved when we get to it. If I could, Greg, did you have a?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
This is Colonel Greg Skibicki. I'm the current equipping operations, and I would say that with the number one demand that we have, so far as the network, is more of thickening the network. There have been quite a few advances that came out of the first NIE that we pushed into theater to make sure that we were able to push as much data to the soldiers as possible. I mean, we now have to where we have full motion video. We've got ability to talk on secure nets all the way down at the lower levels than we ever thought possible. We're using new technologies. We're taking in WinT Increment 2 after this next run of the NIE. And I would tell you that the capability set that's being tested during this next NIE, we're already planning on how we can get it into the hands of the next deployers so that we can actually take it into theater as soon as possible. And theater right now is trying to make sure that it does fit inside the networks and can work across all the coalition lines and enables and thickens the network.
Yeah, great, Greg. You understand, those may not know it, the NIE at Fort Bliss, the operating environment set up at Fort Bliss and White Sands Missile Range, that is the Afghan operating environment. So this to me, this is money extremely well spent and very relevant. But Sandra, your question was, do we see any breakthroughs? I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I've been in the Army 33 years and I'm a knuckle dragger, and everything I see is a breakthrough to me. But I got to tell you, if we've understood anything from the last 8 years, it's we've got to build the best 4-lane information superhighway from the 2-star Joint Task Force headquarters down to the lowest level possible, if possible the platoon, if not the squad, for data, imagery, and voice, and be able to do that, send all those things while on the move. And that's what we're trying to get to out there, and we're having successes, and we're having some things we know we got to work on. But I know I didn't answer your breakthrough question.
Well, I mean,
but I
maybe
we're headed in the right direction.
Maybe I can follow up real quickly. For example, do you foresee an upcoming purchase or acquisition of smartphones, 4G networks that the Army has been talking about so much, and actually put it out in the field in large quantities for an entire brigade?
Ma'am, it's Mike McCaffrey again. The answer to that is yes, we will extend the network to the dismounted environment for soldiers. PEO Soldiers is the lead for that. They're working on it. They're bringing capabilities and evaluating capabilities to every NIE to find the best, the most cost-effective and operationally effective candidate. And they say it's a great venue to do that in association with the rest of the network, which is going to be out there because we want all these pieces to work together.
Is there a purchase in the offing that we're aware of, or can we redirect the question to anybody?
So we can redirect it to ASALT, sir.
Yeah.
But like I said, you're right, on the most recent NIE 12-1, which we got the report in January, ASALT is working on purchase actions based on those results.
Right. The specifics of those purchase actions, I don't have them in front of me. I apologize, Senator, but we could, maybe OCPA or somebody, we could help you get to the ASALT person to answer that one.
I would note that in the 13 budget, we did put money in there and are looking for Congress to support money to capitalize on any breakthrough technologies which come to the NIE.
Right. We're budgeting to take advantage of breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
And Senator,
Thank you very much.
You bet. We'll go to Tom Seaman.
Yes, I am here. Thank you very much. I guess my only question would be, what are we doing with all the MRAPs and such that we brought out of Iraq? Are they white elephants? That was kind of one of the concerns I remember. What are we doing with all of them? Are we revamping them in any way, or what's being done with all those vehicles? Is there a program to refurbish them and so on and so forth, the whole MRAP family?
Hello, Tom.
Does that make sense, what I asked?
It does, and this is Mark Barbosa again. There are a number of folks out there that are concerned with what we are going to do with this tremendous investment our country has made in the MRAPs. I will tell you, as they cycle back, and please understand that the vast majority are still engaged in theater in Afghanistan, and there are some that are flowing out of Iraq or flowed out of Iraq. They're coming out of Kuwait, and all of those, when they come out of the desert, we send right now to Red River. There are some that are going to Letterkenny, but by and far, the vast majority, and we've got over 1,300 of them at Red River now, and they're being reset. So they're being pulled apart. Delayed desert damage is being checked to see if any of that is present. And then in some cases, if they were some of the very earliest MRAPs that went over there, there are some things that we learned along the way, and maybe a safety modification or an extra thing or something moved. Any performance enhancements are then being added, and we are pushing those out to what we call a couple of places. One is the pre-deployment training sets across the United States, so soldiers can train on MRAPs before they actually deploy and then actually operate those in theater. So by and large, that's operated by Forces Command, and they've got, in every major installation, they've got MRAPs where they train. And so that's one of our high priorities. The other priority is looking at some of the things that we're doing to put those in organizations, because the Army looked at this hard. And again, I'll go back to my earlier comment that we only have, when it's all said and done, about 20,000. So we've got a very small slice of that back here in the States, and we're using all of those that are currently been reset and are back out into the field. and used for training sets, and then we got the rest of them going through that reset process, and then we'll get pushed out again to start displacing some of the older ones that are out there in the training sets. So we ultimately will look at putting some of the MRAPs, because we've already looked, the G3 has already validated that, and briefed it to senior Army leadership, that we are going to put them in certain types of units, and so they will start to flow into those certain types of units eventually. And then, as General Cucolo mentioned, a good portion of what we've got coming back will go into what we are calling contingency sets and be available for things in the future, since we won't have enough of them to spread them across the Army. We'll have to sit there, we'll have to we'll put some training ones out there, we'll put some that we're going to put in specific functions across the Army into specific units, and then a chunk of those will be put into contingency sets. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it did generally. They're not being put into specific. We're not creating. We got striker brigades. We're not creating a specific units with that type of vehicle. But
no, sir. And if I could, okay. I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead, please.
And we had the brief with General Odinero when he came on board, and one of his comments was, make sure that if you're putting it in a unit, that and if it's going to take on a specific function, then say it's going to, do something similar to what the Deuce and a Half was doing, that, I almost have and it won't be perfect in every case, but, I put 5 MRAPs into a unit, 5 trucks come out. So, the older trucks. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at. And right now we get about 3,000 that we've got tagged to go into specific units, but for striker units and IBCTs, not so much. It's more going to...
if I could take it, Mark. Hey, Tom, there's not going to be an MRAP brigade.
Yeah, I figured not. Okay.
We're going
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. Okay. Dan.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
James.
Thank you. Just sort of looking at DoD's new strategy that'll draw down some of the active end strength and focus on the Pacific, maybe using rotational deployments for international partnerships or even regionally aligning brigades. With that in mind, are there any specific equipment or modernization programs that you sort of view as especially critical or key to that strategy or your future posture?
Well, I think as Cucolo, I think the key one that crosses. I mean, our marching orders are pretty clear from the chief. Our sizing guidance was very clear in the defense strategic guidance, and across the entire range of military operations, from disaster relief to build partner capacity to counterinsurgency, the entire range of military operations, deter and defeat aggression, is what we equip for. And the chief breaks it down into our role is to prevent, shape, win. So if we believe that if we're equipping to win, we're preventing de facto. And your question is about, okay, for the regional alignment, which would be a shaping mission, build partner capacity, go interact with a friendly army, a friendly ground force, assist them in their development, or share operating capabilities so we can interoperate as necessary in a future fight or a future response. What kind of equipment goes for that? I'll tell you what, our number one equipment of priority, which is the network, will answer. It would be my response to what equipment is needed for that. The nature of the future battlefield is incredibly complex, and to deal with complexity, you want the greatest situational awareness. You want to be able to operate dispersed, and if you operate dispersed, you want to be able to see each other, see any threat, and be able to communicate quickly across all means and with some redundancy. when moving out to build partner capacity, that would mean dispersed operations. That would mean varying terrain. That would mean a variety of platforms that we might be in, vehicle platforms. And so specific equipment that would assist that would be the network. And quite frankly, all else, if we're equipped to win, we can adapt and bring whatever we need to shape with our partners. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Could I go to Paul, Defense News?
Yes, thank you, gentlemen, for speaking to us today. I appreciate it. I know you have an AMPV Industry Day coming up later this month. Just curious what you plan on telling the industry and just, looking for a little bit of an update on the program. Also, moving into the future, how do you plan on integrating, you've spoken to this a little bit, how do you plan on integrating MRAPs and MATVs, double B-held strikers, into brigade combat teams? Thanks.
Okay, great. Let me take that. For those that may not know it, Armored Multi-Purpose Vehicle is the AMPV that Paul's talking about. That would be the follow-on to the 113 family of vehicles. If you're familiar with the armored personnel carrier that I grew up in as a lieutenant, that's what we're seeking to replace, because obviously from a protection and power capability, the 113 just it won't work on the future battlefield. It's not used right now. So we're looking for an AMPV, a son of the 113. Let me answer your second question first, and then turn it over to one of my experts, John Lee, about the Industry Day sort of focus. Reference integration. As everybody on the net knows, we're going through a very careful look at our organizations, particular organizations at brigade level. We do not have a final decision yet, but part of that organizational look, I'll give you an example of the things being considered. Should a brigade combat team, whether it be armored or infantry, have 3 maneuver battalions, vice the 2 it has right now? Should there be an engineer battalion in these brigades? If you do that, what kind of logistics do you add? Do you add an artillery battery? Those are the kinds of discussions going on, to include a look at higher level headquarters. Because of the regional alignment and the look for building partner capacity, are our Army Service Component Commands, like U.S. Army Pacific, U.S. Army Central, U.S. Army South, are they organized properly to do that sort of mission with the new focus we've received from our senior leaders? Part of all of this organizational relook is a fleet mix relook. And I'd like to answer your question specifically and say, Stryker DVH is here, Stryker flat bottoms there, MRAP's over here. We're not there yet, but everything is on the table. Everything's on the table for several reasons. The 2 primary are versatility. I'd like to, if I've got a range of military operations I have to address, I want to be able to go into a counterinsurgency or stability operations environment, but be able quickly to go to a higher intensity conflict environment. I'd like whatever I own to be versatile, to be able to operate in those 2 across the range of operations, and affordable. Meaning, all right, if I have MRAPs, do I need to buy a certain type of vehicle that I currently have that is road bound, and would an MRAP fit a mission role that another vehicle provides right now that I can just replace with current inventory? All those questions are being analyzed right now, primarily at Training and Doctrine Command and with our inside our G3 at Headquarters Department of the Army, and they're gonna develop the fleet mix analysis. Quite frankly, is going to inform how much we buy, how much we keep of the kinds of vehicles that you're talking about. But John, you want to talk about AMPV specifically?
Sure. The AMPV, Armored Multi-Purpose Vehicle, is a new program that is trying to replace the 113 family of vehicles. And right now, our current status is that we're going through analysis of alternatives, which is conducted by TRADOX track. I guess that's the analysis portion of the TRADOC command, and their analysis is projected to complete sometime this summer, and we're hoping to get to some type of an acquisition decision late in FY12 or first quarter of 13 to be able to move out on some type of a request for proposal. And that's the reason why the PM is preparing the industry day. I believe the first one will be in April, and then the second one will be followed in August. The current track for the AOA is to confirm the CDD requirement. That's the capability development document requirement for protection and mobility level. So when those requirements are sort of confirmed through the AOA process, the PM should be the project manager, the acquisition community. They should be able to sort of inform the industry on what are some of the key attributes we're looking for in this vehicle, so they can be prepared to respond to the RFP sometime in about 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, it's all about getting the requirements right. And I tell you what, one of the things the Army, I always get frustrated when people outside the organization take my acquisition brothers and sisters to task, because they've made incredible strides in doing their best to be agile and adaptable. Right, an example is this AMP-V. In all of our major purchases, we're taking 2 tracks, and not in all. In most of our major purchases, if it's feasible, we're taking 2 tracks. Is there a non-developmental vehicle, if you will, off the shelf? Does something exist right now that can be examined? Does it meet the requirements? Does it inform the requirements? While we also may ask industry to do technology development, is there something new that can be created with current technology? And so it's a double track to see what is most affordable and versatile and can meet the requirements. But it's all about getting the requirements right, because I think in the past we might have, in the distant past, we might have written requirements that became irrelevant through age and changes on the battlefield. But does that answer your question, Paul?
It does. That's a quick follow-up about the fleet mix review. And obviously over the past 10 years, a lot of new vehicles have come into the fleet. You know, we didn't have MRAPs, MATVs, or Strikers before. Is there some tension there in trying to keep some of this stuff just because we have it, and it would be expensive to divest? I mean, is that something you guys are kind of working through? Like, what do you really need, and what's really going to be adequate for the battlefield of the future?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate tension, understanding the fiscal conditions we're in right now. So it's not settling at all, but it's if we have something that works or can be modified, and then asking the question, is the modification cheaper than a new build? Because in some cases it's not. Does that work? So to answer your question, yes, there is tension, and also a sense of urgency to divest what we no longer need. A great sense of urgency, and that's not just for vehicles. That's for all property. What quick reaction capability did we develop in combat over the last eight or 9 years that we want to keep as a program of record? That's also part of this healthy tension as we kind of take a knee and sort ourselves out with new organizations and our focus, our new strategic focus. I'll pause there.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
who was speaking on the AMPV, just so we could quote him correctly?
Go ahead, John.
This is John Lee. I'm the action officer for combat vehicles and heavy brigade combat teams.
That's Lee, Lima Echo Echo, first name John. Actually, I don't know. I heard a couple of beeps that other folks might have joined. Otherwise, I'll go back to Chuck Simmons. Do we have, who did I not get to with a question yet? Go ahead.
Sir, this is Tony Bertuca from Inside the Army. Thanks for talking to us today.
Right.
And Sebastian Sprenger, too, with Inside the Army.
Right. I'm glad you guys are inside the Army.
Yeah, we try.
Roger, go ahead.
My question, sir, went back to the fleet mix. I guess this is all being informed by the force mix, force design study that's currently with the Secretary. Could you shed a little light on maybe when the implementation of this is going to start? You know, when we're going to start to see the implementation of some of these initiatives? I know the big one was going from 2 maneuver battalions to 3. There's some fires stuff, I guess, that's on the table. Can you get into some of that?
I can tell you that we don't have a decision yet. Analysis is near complete. I'm speaking out of turn on whether or not the analysis is complete. I know for a fact that those decisions, particularly the 2 battalion, 3 battalion decision, will result in further reduction in numbers of brigade combat teams if we go in that direction. That's a really significant decision. That is still with the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army, and so I'd be guessing. We're still pre-decisional on that. Over.
Any idea when then it's going to start to impact your life?
Yeah, you asked when, and I'll tell you what. I'm sorry, guys. I am not privy to when that decision will be made.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You bet. Sorry, guys. Anybody else after Inside the Army? Anyone we did not get to yet? Okay, silence on the net. What I'll do is I'll go back around the horn in case anybody has any follow-ups or different questions, and I'll just take it in the order we started. Chuck, are you still on the line, or do you have any other questions?
I'm on the line. I am not with a military background, so I guess I've gotten a little confused here. The Striker.
That's okay.
The Striker, I thought, was a replacement for the 113. Can you talk a little bit about the 113, the Striker, the MRAP, and how you transport troops in a combat situation, and is the AMPV going to be the answer to that? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, certainly understand your confusion. The Striker was never a replacement for the 113. It was a medium weight. It started out as a medium weight air deployable. I can fly it on a C-130 aircraft for rapid deployment. Infantry carrier. So again, wheeled vehicle, higher. Great network and communications capabilities, great gun mount, a very fast-moving. You can move a large number of troops. Stryker Brigade is a pretty big brigade. You can move a large number of troops at a rapid operational maneuver rate. I mean, for example, in the I think it was 2005 or 2006. I'll get the year wrong, but in Iraq, Stryker Brigade was sent to reinforce. They went from north to central and south, and an entire brigade just picked up, got in their Strykers, and moved and reinforced an area at lightning speed overnight. And that was the capability. That was what General Shinseki and the folks who envisioned the Stryker. But the key part then was it was air deployable. Since that, with the changes on the battlefield, the Stryker's gotten very heavy. The Stryker double V hull is what we have in Afghanistan right now, and Chuck, that is a modification to the Stryker that gets that greater soldier safety. The Strykers are in brigade combat teams, and forgive me, I just a moment of distraction. Since you know it's not a 113 replacement, where would you like to go with your question?
Well, I guess so. Where I'm going to go with the question is, the Stryker then is a unique vehicle addition to the vehicle fleet versus a replacement for an existing vehicle.
Yeah, the Stryker capability is actually resident in a Stryker brigade. Now, could we use the Stryker in another mission role? Absolutely. And it may come to pass after this fleet mix analysis is done that we see strikers in other places than the Stryker Brigade. But Chuck, very quickly, we got an Armor Brigade combat team that's currently M1 tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles, and we have Stryker Brigade combat teams, and we have Infantry Brigade combat teams. And Infantry Brigade combat teams obviously move on foot or by truck, and then obviously we have the airborne and air assault. All different ways of getting to the fight for different reasons, and that's why the Stryker's called an infantry carrying vehicle. You don't put the Stryker in a stand-up, knockdown, drag-out armored vehicle fight. It's a great way to move troops and get them there, and be a platform for a suppressive weapon.
Okay, so the Bradley is your fighting vehicle.
Bradley is the infantry fighting vehicle. That's affirmative, and that is why one of our priorities for modernization is called the ground combat vehicle. It's the follow-on to the Bradley, and that's because the Bradley has some limitations right now. It cannot carry a full squad, a full infantry squad. We have to break up the squad into two different Bradleys just because of the room in the back. And quite frankly, we're about maxed out on power for the network that we want to put, the communications capability that we want to put on these vehicles. And also, we'd like to improve the protection on the infantry fighting vehicle. And that's why we're looking for a new ground combat vehicle to replace them at some point in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Dale, still there?
I am, sir, but my question was answered. Thank you very much.
You bet. Sandra, any follow-up? Or perhaps off the net? Tom Seaman, still there?
I am still here. Thank you very much. I do not have any follow-ups. I appreciate your time and information.
You bet. Thanks. I might have worn you out. Dan, you still there with James?
I am, but I'm all set, sir. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Paul, anything?
Yeah, just quickly, if you could touch on the issue of manned unmanned cargo lift going into the future. What are you looking at? What do you think is going to work? What do you think might come up in the next few years?
Yeah, I got Bill. I don't know if you have anything, but I can tell you that we're watching. All right, first of all, there's no question it's an item of interest. Moving cargo, whether on ground or in the air, is of great interest to anybody that has to fight on the ground. And the number of convoys you have on the road, it disrupts the population, disrupts traffic, also puts your troops at risk if the enemy wants to get at you, either disrupting your supply line or inflicting casualties. So obviously, very interested in the capability. We're watching with great interest the Marines' testing of the unmanned vertical cargo transport. Bill, you got anything on that? We're just watching that one.
Yeah, this is Bill Pardue. The General is right. We're watching the Marines' use of unmanned aircraft for cargo autonomous operations. The Army right now is not actively using that skill set overseas. We're using the current manned fleet to move around the battlefield. So we're watching.
The precision parachute is really working out great guns in Afghanistan.
So I would say right now the Marine Corps is taking the lead for this. I would only surmise that if there is some degree of success with that, I'm guessing the Army may jump on that activity. But right now, that's not our primary focus right now for unmanned aircraft.
Yeah, fiscal realities and common sense. This is not, and also that's nothing new. Us watching the Marine Corps develop something and then us deciding whether or not we want to throw in at some point. That works for many programs. I mean, ammunition, JLTV is a partnership with the Army and the Marine Corps. Just about everything, because of common sense and fiscal reality, every major program, the spending of the taxpayers' dollars is very carefully examined to see who else can use it if one service brings it into the joint forum. And the Joint Requirements Oversight Council, JROC, under the the leadership of the vice chairman is huge, and is taking all of those on, making sure that we're spending our money wisely, and if there's commonality that can be shared, we go for it. And gang, we got about 2 minutes left, so I've talked too much, and let me just see if is there anybody in my team that wants to add anything that has not been said about anything in particular? Yeah, Mark.
Just a quick one. It's Mark Barbosa again. And when you talk about unmanned aerial lift, if I could just throw in there are many ways we get at that, one of which is air drop. So we've got a program called JPADS where we drop cargo from high altitude. Joint Parachute Aerial Delivery System. Right. We drop cargo from high altitudes, and we've got parachutes that can steer to, and I won't give you how close, but we can get them to remote outposts. So we would do that along with any unmanned things that General Cucolo had talked about before. But this is a system that's already in place, and the other side already knows we've got it, and we've been using it very successfully for the last couple of years.
Hey, thanks, gang. I'm gonna close out here just to be respectful to your time. My guys and gals are fired up. They could stay here all day with you, but I won't let them. My one closer is the team sitting in there. As I look around the room, the team sitting in here, they're in charge of keeping the capabilities for decisive land action healthy through material solutions, the equipment side of things. And I got to tell you, if anything, it's personal to the people doing this. Everybody in here has served in combat in some way, shape, or form. Everybody in here has seen equipment work or not work. Everyone has seen the results of enemy attacks. And so, if anything, what you have now, resident on the Army staff and working these tough, complex fiscal issues, is a passion and a desire to get things right, because we've been there, we've seen it, and in many cases, my folks have children in the service and deployed. And so I hope everybody realizes this is well beyond any kind of mathematical numbers game. We bring our best military advice with a sense of passion, as well as the common sense it takes to execute programs. So I thank you for your time today, and we'll try and keep up the information flow out to you. Feel free to, through the Office of Chief Public Affairs, feel free to ask us any further questions, or if we missed something or you didn't understand it or you needed a name of a person on the net. Thanks for your time today. We're out here.
Thank you.